The Great Awakening. No one can say for sure how many tomb worlds entered the Great Sleep, but it is certain that a large number did not survive into the 41st millennium. Technologically advanced though Necrons were, to attempt to stasis sleep with such a scale was a great risk to even them. The Necrons, they slept for 60 million years, voicelessly waiting for the chance to complete the Silent King's final order. To restore the Awakening Empire. It is difficult to determine the world's true astronomic distribution. The Necrons' dynastic territories for their worlds have been strewn about the galactic tides, awaking gradually. Those regions the dynasties lay claim to are clear, however, as their ranks swell, their legions march ever outwards. Those domains grow more sprawling by the year. Today on Review Rollout, we're reading the new Necron Codex.
Anvil of War! Review Rollout!
Welcome back. Today on Review Rollout, we're going to be talking about the new Necron Codex. But before that, a huge thank you to our sponsors at Red Dragon for giving us this book to review on our channel. As well, if you like our content, don't hesitate to like, share, and subscribe. There's a little icon down below that you can click on and it'll let you know every time we upload a new video. Now, Necrons. As everybody who's watched this channel knows, I love my Necrons. I love the lore of the Necrons. And I really like what they're doing with them in 9th edition. With the comeback of the Silent King, I can see so much being added to this army. Not only are you getting new types of Krypteks, but you get the Silent King, you get some new destroyers, and all kinds of stuff that are in this book. Let's go explore that right now. All right, guys, look at this book. The artwork on the cover is amazing. It features the new look of the Necrons and the new Skorpek Lord and the new warriors. I can't wait to open this up, so let's do so. So, as you can see, the interior cover has some beautiful new artwork on it. You know, it features three characters. It features 3 characters from the Necrons. So yeah, I do like the new artwork on the in this book. Aeons have they slumbered, while the stars have wheeled through the heavens, and empires have risen and fallen to dust. Yet all things have their time, and amidst the flames and madness of the galaxy's death throes, so theirs has come again. If that doesn't scream Necrons are going to mess you up, I don't know what does. So, here we have the contents, an introduction to Necrons. It's, introducing you to what the Necrons are and to the hobby part. So we have another little blurb here with some beautiful artwork. I'm like, this is the cover artwork, but it's still, I honestly wish that I had a poster of this that I could hang on my wall while I'm painting for a little bit of inspiration. To face the Necrons in battle is to stand against death incarnate. It is to know the terror of annihilation at the hands that belongs who should be long rotted in their graves. The Necrons' enemies see implacable android revenants rise from their crypts or step from amidst the flickering witch lights to destroy all before them. In return, the Necrons see only vermin, interlopers, and savages that must be eradicated in order for their mighty dynasties of old to rise again. So I don't know if you guys know the lore of the Necrons, but essentially I'm going to do it very briefly. This section goes right into the lore. The Necrons were fighting a war against the old ones. At this point in time, they were called the Necron Tier. So this section kind of describes how they were battling the old ones, and then they sought the they sought out immortality through the CTAN, which are actually, they use a different name in this book from before their CTANs. Just give me 1 second. Yignir. So it was in the Necrotier's darkest hour during the reign of Cesarek, last of the Silent Kings, that the CTAN, those called the Yignir, came before the Necrontier with an offer of aid. The legends speak of ancient star gods, beings formed from the fundamental energies of the universe, who have offered Cesarek and his people all they have ever desired, power and immortality. All it would cost was for the Necrontier to ally themselves with the CTAN and destroy the hated old ones forever. So essentially what happened here is the CTAN kind of tricked Zarek into, taking on an android form. And so that would be the lore of the Necrons. If you do get a chance to read this book, I would highly recommend reading this section thoroughly, because one of the things that I absolutely love, as I mentioned before, is the Necron lore. It's very tragic what happened to them, and to be honest with you, it's probably one of my favorite stories in the entire 40K universe. One of the things I like about the new edition, especially of this book, is that they really take what the Necrons were in the previous editions and they start to flesh out more of the middle area. They definitely bring back the Silent King, which a lot of Necron players have been waiting for. I myself have. But they flesh out a lot of the different tiers that are in the Necron army. Another thing I want to mention is this beautiful piece of artwork here. You know, you have a reanimator with some some damaged warrior guys in the front. Turning the page, we have more beautiful artwork. We have some Kryptek Destroyers fighting some Tau. Die. You know, with some doom scythes shooting at them in the background, and a Kryptek Lord back there going, "Fight them and kill them," in a robot-y voice. You have more beautiful artwork here. This section goes into a bit of the weapons and how advanced their technology is. So here we have the war zone of Amhotep II. As you can see, we have some artwork here with the Void Dragon. One by one, the polar volcanoes of Ozarka chain have erupted and subsided, rising from amidst the resultant blazing sea come the aeons-old Necron structures, doubtably secured in the fastness of their moat of molten rock. From this spawning tomb complex, waves of Necron warriors and war engines teleport in from off-world, first gathering into the invasion forces. They then strike north against the mines, quarries, and refinery complexes and forge cities of the Adeptus Mechanicus. So basically, they're going to mess some stuff up on Amhotep II. Another section about tomb worlds. We got some beautiful artwork with some tomb spiders, and we have Illuminator Zerus himself, being all Illuminori. A little bit section about the different parts that are awakening in the Empire. So we have the Eye of Terror here, and we have all these different tomb world areas, and where the different dynasties are from, right? So you have the Zerakan Empire, you have the Focht Empire. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing these right, but and you have the Tau Empire that's going to get messed up by the Zerakan Empire, right? What else? You have Novak, Merifit, all these different ones. It even shows you where Mars is. Okay, here I hit this section of the book and I just kind of want to explain this a bit. So like the Silent King and Imhotep the Stormlord, they would be here, right? And then you have your Triarch Praetorians, you have your Royal Court and your Armory. Then you have your Outcasts, which would be like, I don't know, Flayed Ones or whatever. Your Legions, which would be your Warriors and Immortals. Your Canoptic Constructs, which would be pretty much all of those insecty-like things that the Necrons have, which are pretty fun to use, right? So your Canoptic Spiders, your Wraiths, your Scarabs, your Doomstalkers, right? Also, and your Destroyers actually land in the Outcasts one, because they're part of the Destroyer cult. And then you have your CTAN Shards, which are the lowest of the low, because they betrayed the Necrons, and now they pretty much power their machines of war. Suckers. So, we have the Pharaon Legions. This section kind of just talks about, goes into detail about the Pharaon's Legions, right? So here, we have started the different dynasties. So that each page is a description along with a very beautiful artwork about the different dynasties. So we have the Caesarian dynasty. If this dynasty was once known by a different name, biotransference, the metal command of Caesaric himself erased it from memory. Those of the Caesarian dynasty know only that it was from their number that the last silent king arose, and that by his word they are to be considered preeminent. But with Caesaric's command protocols gone, many of their rival dynasties are less convinced. And then we have the Sautek dynasty. The Sautek dynasty is the classic, Necron dynasty, that whole black with the green glow. So the Sautek dynasty has long been the most numerous and aggressively expansionist of the Necron dynasties. Indeed, many of the Necron's foes could be forgiven for their mistaken belief that the colors of the Sautek dynasty are in fact the unified military panoply of the Necron race as a whole. It is their legions, after all, that have assailed to the lesser races most often, led by Imhotep the Stormlord. So you have the Mefrit dynasty. The Mefrit dynasties are infamous for their destructive excess in the time before the Great Sleep. They were the planetary headsmen of the Silent Kings, employing incredible star-killing weaponry to exterminate entire systems. So as we go along this section, we have all the different dynasties, the main ones anyways. I've always liked the Novak dynasty's colors, even though I kind of paint in purple. This section covers, the different dynasties that you can create, because I myself have created my own dynasty, which is loyal to the Silent King. Its name has long since been lost to the eons, but so this just discusses some of the lesser dynasties that exist in the Necron lore. Alas, we have come to the Silent King, the supreme ruler of the Necron dynasties, the last of the Silent Kings, shatterer of the star gods, defeater of the old ones, bringer of unity, and master of the final Triarch, wielder of the scepter of eternal glory. These are but a handful of the grand titles earned by Caesaric, the ruler of the Necron race. His endless horrifics paint glorious picture, but in truth his gleaming image is tainted by the inner darkness that few see. Yes, the Silent King. All right, so moving on, this section covers a little bit more about the Caesaric dynasty. Then we have Imhotep the Stormlord. Imhotep did not awaken from the Great Sleep as the Pharaon of the Sautek dynasty. However, compelled by circumstance and single-minded determination to reclaim the glorious Necron Empire of old, he took upon himself the mantle and has been born with confidence and skill ever since. Few who face the Stormlord survive, and those who do are forever changed. Some beautiful artwork of Imhotep there. Moving on to some of the other characters, we have Trezen the Infinite. He is the Great Collector. So as the Archivist of the Solomon's Galleries, Trezen the Infinite's duty is one of preservation. Amidst the war-torn surrounds of the 41st millennium, however, even such seemingly noble pursuit requires Malkavian ways and no little flair for violence. Fortunately for the tomb world of Solomons, Trezen possesses both qualities in abundance. So rumor has it he's got entire Space Marine companies in stasis. You know, these are the things he collects: tanks, weapons, different Xenos races, stuff like that. My favorite, the most noble and loyal. No, I'm joking. So it's Illuminator Zerus. So Illuminator Zerus is a merciless monster. He is the bio architect and the hypertechnical vivisector who seeks to unpick the secrets of life itself. He puts the anatomical knowledge to use both on and off the battlefield, preying upon the living specimens to better refine and enhance the Necron form. Rumor has it that he's aligned himself with the Silent King to actually pursue trying to reverse the process of biotransference. So there is a beautiful picture of him in his newfound glory. Orkan the Diviner is the master of past and future. Here we have Zandrak and Obyron, the Time-Lost Lord and his faithful defender. Anakir the Traveler. This is an interesting one. So some see Anakir is the ultimate expression of the Necron stellar supremacy. An indefiable warrior whose crusade for unity is nothing short of inspirational. Other Necron nobles see him as a rogue, an opportunist, a privateer, little better than the plundering vermin of the lesser races. Anakir cares not either way, so long as he is able to continue his quest. So yeah. So we have some more stuff in the Dynasty, some really epic models. We have the new monolith here, along with the new warriors, which look epic, by the way. Everything's epic in the Necron world. Oh, so we have some Doom sites from the Novok. See what I mean? Like, these are absolutely beautiful. So these, the Novok are the beautiful red and white Necrons. I believe these are... I'm just... yeah, these are Cesaric Necron warriors moving out of the new monolith model. And then we have some of the classic-looking Wraiths. Gotta love the way they paint up these models. Here we have some of the new Destroyer models. So we have the Scorpek Destroyer along with the Ophidian Destroyers, which I have not seen much about yet, but I'm sure that GW has been covering a lot of them. These guys look more, way more close combat-y, you know, than traditional Destroyers. And in 9th edition, we've moved from straight-up Destroyers to the Locust Destroyers, because these guys are actually a new model in the Locust Destroyer range. Along with that, we also have the Hexmark Destroyer. So we have a lot of these the newer units presented here in their newfound glory, painted in beautiful Caesarean. Painted in the new Dynasty colors. And look at that. This is the Silent King. I could look at this model for hours. It's absolutely beautiful. Along with this beautiful model, we have the new Overlord model. Some flayed ones, which will definitely, hopefully, be coming out in plastic. Oh God, please come out in plastic. You have a Techromancer with Canoptic Cloak and the new Royal Warden model. Look at this. Mr. Void Dragon. Isn't he beautiful? He's going to mess some stuff up. Those poor Eldar, they don't know what's going to hit them. Probably lots of death-like things. We got some new monoliths in the background, along with the Silent King. We have come to the rules, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the section of the rules. This is the part of the book that actually tells you how to bring to life those little Necron models on the tabletop. So, in the following pages, we have all these different rules. We have the Battleforge rules, the Army rules, the Match Play rules, the Crusade rules, data sheets, war gear points, and rules reference. Here we have Combat Patrol with some beautiful little models. We have the detachment abilities. A Necron's detachment is one that only includes models with the Necron's keyword, excluding the models with the unaligned keyword. Necron's detachments gain the Royal Court and Dynastic Agents and Star Gods abilities. Necron's units in the Necron's detachments gain the Dynastic Codes ability. Troops units in the Necron's detachment gain the Objective Secured ability. This ability is described in the Warhammer 40,000 core book. So you also have the Dynastic Codes. All Necron units with this ability and all models with them gain the Dynastic Codes so long as every unit in that detachment is from the same dynasty. The Dynastic Code they gain depends upon which dynasty they are from and is shown in the following pages. So that pretty much sticks with, the good old 8th edition rules. Not much has changed there. The Royal Court. When mustering your army, if it contains the Silent King model, that model must be selected as your warlord. Otherwise, if your army contains a Pharaon model, then that model must be selected as your warlord. Otherwise, if your model contains an overlord model, that model must be selected as your warlord. Otherwise, if your army contains a lord model, that model must be selected as your warlord. If your army contains none of the listed above models, then select your warlord as normal. So it could be a Kryptek or any other HQ-based model. So here we have the Dynastic Codes. I have a few personal favorites in the old 8th edition, which would actually be the Nikilla one and then the Sautek one. They pretty much depend upon what you want to do with your army. So I'll let you guys make that personal choice, but you have a little bit of selection here. So here you have the ancient dynasties, the Dynastic Traditions. If your chosen dynasty does not have an associated dynastic code on pages 52 and 53, you must instead create their dynastic code by selecting a code from the Dynastic Traditions list below. Unless you've selected the Vassal Kingdom dynastic code, you can then also select one additional code up from the circumstances of the Awakening list. This is definitely new, and so let's check some of these out. We have the Unyielding, which is right here. So models with this code have a 6+ invulnerable save. We have Butchers. Add 1 to the charge rolls made for units with this code. We have Severed. So a unit with this code benefits from the selected directive of your army's active command protocol while it is within 9 inches of your friendly Necron's character model, excluding the CTAN Shards, instead of 6 inches. And then you have, Superior Artisans. Each time a unit with this code is selected to shoot or fight, you can reroll 1 rune roll when making that unit's attacks. You also have the circumstances of Awakening. So you have the Healthy Paranoia. Add 3 inches to the range of the characteristic of ranged weapons, excluding the pistols that models with this code are equipped with. I could see that being very useful because a lot of Necron weapons, they don't shoot as far as some of the other races out there. You have the Relentlessly Expansionist one. At the start of the first battle round, before the first turn begins, units with this code can make a normal move of up to 6 inches. So a lot of these can be very useful in different circumstances. Here we have the stratagems. I've already pre-selected some of the ones that I'd like to take a look at. Obviously, you guys can take a look at them as well and read through them all. But I'm just kind of briefly summarizing this section just because there is a lot of them. So a lot of these are from the original book. They have been altered. They're different than they were in the 8th edition Codex, as well as they have all the Psychic Awakening ones in here as well, which is kind of nice because, you know, at the end of 8th edition, it was getting kind of sporadic as to where you were referencing your stratagems from. My top 3 of the new ones would be Burrowing Nightmares. So Burrowing Nightmares. Use this stratagem at the start of your movement phase. Select one of the Ophiron Destroyers unit from your army that is on the battlefield. Remove that unit from the battlefield in the reinforcement step of your next movement phase. You can set up that unit back up to the battlefield anywhere that is more than 9 inches away from any models. If that battle ends and that unit is not on the battlefield, it is destroyed. We also have Reanimation Prioritization. Use this stratagem in your opponent's shooting phase when a Necrons unit from your army is selected as the target of an attack. Select one Canoptic Reanimator model in your army that is within 6 inches and invisible to the targeted unit. That model can use its Nanoscarab Reanimation Beam ability as if it was your command phase, selecting the targeted unit to be healed by its Reanimation Beam. Any unit that was already being healed by that model's Reanimation Beam is no longer considered to be healed by it. Last but not least, we have Revenge of the Doomstalker. Use this stratagem in any phase when a Dynasty character unit from your army is destroyed by an enemy unit. Select one friendly Canoptic Doomstalker unit model from your army at the end of the phase that the Canoptic Doomstalker model can shoot as if it were in your shooting phase, but it can only target that enemy unit, and only if the enemy unit is eligible for that attack. Until the end of the battle, each time the Canoptic Doomstalker model makes an attack that targets that enemy, add 1 to that attack's hit roll. So there's those. I also have 3 of my old favorites. So I have 3 old faves. Moving on to 3 of my old faves, we have Self-Destruction. I really love to use this with my Scarabs. So use this stratagem during the fight phase when a Canoptic Scarab Swarm unit from your army is selected to fight. Select one model in that unit. After that unit has finished piling in, you can select one enemy unit within engagement range of that model and roll 1d6. On a 2 to a 5, that enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds, and on a 6, that enemy suffers 3 mortal wounds. The Canoptic Scarab Swarm is destroyed. Next, we have another one of my favorites, Relentless Onslaught. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a core infantry, so like a Necron warrior or immortal, unit from your army is selected to shoot. Until the end of that phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack with a rapid fire weapon, an unmodified hit roll of a 6 scores 1 additional hit. So you have exploding shots with that one. My last of the old favorites is Extermination Protocols. So use this stratagem when you're in the shooting phase, when a Locust Destroyer or Locust Heavy Destroyer unit from your army is selected to shoot. Until the end of that phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, you can reroll the wound roll. In the stratagem section, GW has also organized the stratagems as opposed to what they did before. Before, they weren't really organized, they were just a bunch of stratagems and you didn't really know what they were for unless you pretty much knew them all off by heart. So if you notice, like in other codexes that have been released for 9th edition, you have, Necron's Battle Tactics Stratagems, you have Epic Deed Stratagems, you have, Strategic Play Stratagems. You also have War Gear Stratagems. So it's a nice way that they organized all the different stratagems for you to use on the tabletop. As well, they have Dynastic Stratagems, which are pretty much what they say they are. So if you have a specific dynasty that can use these stratagems, go ahead and use them. For example, you have Blood Rights with the Novak dynasty. It is a tactic stratagem. So you use this stratagem in the fight phase when the Novak unit from your army is selected to fight. Until the end of that phase, add 1 to the attack's characteristic for the models of that unit. That could become very useful, especially when you're using the new destroyer units that are very close combat-y. We have some beautiful artwork of Tomb World and the new Necrons arising from the tombs. So in this section, we have the Kryptek Organic. So if you have a battle-forged army and you have a Kryptek in your army, you can equip him or it with a piece of Kryptek Organic, such as the Quantum Orb, which is for the Plasmancer model only. Once per battle in your command phase, the bearer can activate this item of Kryptek Organic. If it does, select 1 point on the battlefield anywhere within 24 inches of the bearer and place a marker on that point. At the start of your next command phase, roll 1d6, and for each unit within 6 inches of the center of that marker, subtracting 1 if the unit being rolled for is a character. And on a 4 or 5, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds, and on a 6, that unit suffers 3 mortal wounds. And then the marker is removed, right? So that's pretty much gonna mess some stuff up when you really want it to. So if you look at this table here, we have the different pieces of Kryptek Organic that you can equip them with. Some of them, like the Quantum Orb, are specific to certain types of Technomancers or Krypteks. And this is how much it adds to the power, and this is how much it adds to the point value. Another one that I really like to look at is the Photonic Subjugator, which just sounds pretty cool. So once per turn, the first time a saving throw is failed for the bearer, the damage characteristic of that attack is changed to 0. Well, that could be pretty fun, and then you have the failsafe Overcharger, which is for the Technomancer model only. In your command phase, you can select 1 friendly Canoptek unit within 9 inches of the bearer. Until the start of your next command phase, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of the models in that unit. If that unit is a monster or a vehicle, add D3 to the attack's characteristics of the models in that unit instead of 1. I could see that being very useful. Moving on, you have your Warlord Traits. These are always fun to do because these were like in 8th edition, these are always fun to kind of, act out, right? Because you have Eternal Madness. Each time this Warlord makes a melee attack, you can re-roll a wound roll. And then you have an Honorable Combatant. I picture a Necron being very... I don't know if I could see them being honorable, but, in the fight phase, each time this Warlord is selected to fight, it can engage in honorable combat. If it does, select 1 enemy character unit until the end of the phase and add 2 to the attack's characteristics of this Warlord. But it can only make attacks to that enemy target. It can only make attacks that target that enemy character unit. So that is actually kind of fun and very thematic. And with the Warlord traits, you also, over here, have the Dynastic Warlord traits, which are pretty much based upon whichever dynasty you decide to take, right? And then we have the Relics. So these are different pieces of equipment that you can equip your Warlords with. Some of my favorites from the 8th edition were the Veil of Darkness. So once per battle in your movement phase, the bearer can use this relic. If it does, the bearer's unit and up to 1 friendly Dynasty core units within 3 inches of the bearer can be removed from the battlefield and set back up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from enemy models. If 2 units are set back up on the table with this relic, both units must be placed wholly within 6 inches of each other, which is pretty much the big change to that. So yeah, this is a very useful piece of equipment to use with Necrons if you want to move them up up the table very quickly. And then you also have another one of my favorites, which was the Solar Staff. So a Netheric model with the Staff of Light can replace its Staff of Light with this weapon, which gives the weapon characteristic of the Solar Staff. So 24-inch shooting, assault 6, strength 5, AP -2, and damage 1, which kind of boosts the Staff of Light a little bit. And then you have the powers of the CTAN, which can only be used by CTAN Shards. So instead of psychic abilities, you have these abilities. So you have the Sky of Falling Stars, for example. So you can select up to 3 enemy units within 24 inches of the CTAN Shard. For each of those units, roll 1d6. And on a roll of 1 to 5, the dice result is less than the number of the models in that unit. That unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. If the CTAN Shard is a Tesseract Vault, that unit suffers 3 mortal wounds from this power instead of d3. And then you also have Cosmic Fire. So on this one, you roll 1d6 for each enemy unit within 9 inches of this CTAN Shard. And on a 4+, that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. If this CTAN Shard is a Tesseract Vault, the units suffer 3 mortal wounds from this power instead of d3. Right? So, you know, they have some pretty fun stuff. And then the Void Dragon has some specific stuff alone if you're going to be using the Void Dragon. So does the Deceiver and the Nightbringer. So moving on to the chapter approved rules. These are rules in the book that are pretty much more for the competitive play, and they kind of give you a little bit more objectives that you can add to the to your secondary objective choice. Here we have the Crusade Rules. This stuff is more for fluffy players like me. Right? You know, with playing through a crusade, you can add weapon enhancements, agendas, requisitions, battle traits, battle scars, and all sorts of fun things to your army while you move through the campaign's story. So you have some agendas, you know, some supremacy through annihilation, some territorial imperatives. You have requisitions that you can, you know, acquire, like Kryptek Arcana, you know, and the glory of subjugation. That just sounds fun. You have some battle traits that you can gather. Some dynastic epithets. I don't even know how to pronounce that, so I'm not even going to bother. But you have a table that you can, you know, add to your army with. You can also add some weapon enhancements to your weapons. So you have different sections for Tesla weapons and Gauss weapons. Tesla weapons and Gauss weapons. You have battle scars that you can add. So this one's for Destroyer Cult unit only. So you have a Mindless Reaper. So when a model in this unit makes an attack, you can re-roll the hit roll. In your shooting phase, each time this unit is selected to shoot, models in this unit can only target the closest eligible enemy unit. And then in your charge phase, each time this unit declares a charge, you can only select the closest enemy unit, excluding aircraft, you know, because you can't attack aircraft, as the target of the charge. And then you have relics that you can acquire through your campaign. So like I said, way more fluffy, way more fun, something I can see myself playing in the near future. Now, some examples of some crusade armies that have been built up over a crusade. Data sheets. Okay, so before I go into this section, there have been some major changes in the way that reanimation protocols work. So we're going to go through this right now. It says, each time an enemy unit shoots or fights, after it makes its attack, if any models in this unit were destroyed as a result of those attacks, but this unit was not destroyed, this unit's reanimation protocols are enacted, and those destroyed models begin to reassemble. Each time a unit's reanimation protocols are enacted, make reanimation protocol rolls for that unit by rolling a number of d6 equal to the combined wounds characteristics of all of the reassembled models. Each reanimation protocol roll of a 5+ is put into a pool. A reanimation protocol roll can never be modified by more than -1 or +1. If the number of dice in that pool is greater than or equal to the wounds characteristics of any of the reassembling models, select one of those models to be reanimated. A reanimated model is added back to its unit with its full wounds remaining. It can only set up within engagement range of enemy units that are already within engagement range of the reanimated model's unit. It cannot, if it is your charge phase, be set up closer to than any enemy units that are the targets of a charge declared by its unit in this phase. No longer counts as having been destroyed for the purposes of morale test this turn. You then reduce the number of dice in that pool by a number equal to the wounds characteristic of the reanimated model, and repeat this process until there are either no more reassembling models, or the number of dice remaining in the pool is less than the wounds characteristic of any of the reassembling models. Any models that did not reanimate or fail to reassemble and are any dice remaining in the pool are discarded. So that is one massive change to the reanimations protocols. Before, it was pretty basic. Now, it's a little bit more interesting. Another major change to the way the Necrons are played is you now have command protocols. So with a noble unit, you can, at the beginning of the game, before the game even begins, you can select command protocol for each battle round in secret, and then at the beginning of that battle round, you then reveal it, and its command protocols are in place. So, for example, you can have battle round 1, you can have Sudden Storm. Battle round 2, you can have Vengeful Stars, and so on and so forth. And then within each one of those protocols, you have 2 directives that you can choose from to enact within that battle round. So that can definitely change the way that you're going to be playing your Necron armies. And here we have the pièce de la résistance, the data sheets. Okay, so I'm going to be blunt here. There are a lot of changes in this army. There are a lot of changes on the data sheets. So I'm not going to go through all of the data sheets. I'm going to pick out a few that I like, and I'm going to end with one I've been really looking forward to reading, which would be the Silent King. So in this one, in the new Necron Codex, you have all your characters in the beginning, along with little blurbs about who they are and what they do, so you have the Illuminator Zerus, ghoulish biotechnist and who haunts the battlefield, and this is pretty much the same as the one that I got in the box with the new model. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So his Eldritch Lance has a range of 36. It's Assault D3, it's Strength 8, AP -4, and D6. He messes stuff up. And if you equip him, if you put 2 Crypto Thralls beside him for a little bit of close combat-y goodness to kind of protect his, his metallic behind, that's a pretty good little combo that you can use there. I know that was kind of silly, but whatever. Speaking of Illuminator Zerus, you have a beautiful image of him here killing Space Marines, because Space Marines need to die. Moving on to some of the newer units, you have the Royal Warden. I'm looking forward to using this guy with some Necron Warriors and seeing what he can do on the tabletop. So one of his abilities is the Relentless March. So while a friendly Dynasty core, so warriors or mortals or whatever, unit is within 6 inches of this model, each time that unit is selected to make a normal move or advance until the end of that phase, add 1 to the move characteristics of the models in that unit, which makes the, that measly little 5-inch move into a 6-inch move. So that's kind of nice. Plus he's got a really decent weapon as well. Yeah, so that's the Royal Warden. As well, we have one of the newer units, the Skorpek Lord. He's pretty much the Lord of the Skorpek Destroyers, and he's very awesome, and he will kill things. So one of the changes in the Necron army is instead of just being destroyers, they are now Locust Destroyers. So the Destroyer Lord is now the Locust Lord. Just FYI there. You still have your you still have your command barge, your overlords, So this is a little bit of a change. Instead of just having Krypteks, you have a few different kinds of techno wizards, I guess. You have the Plasmancer, the Psychomancer, the Chronomancer, the Technomancer, all various different forms of Krypteks. And then you have your new Necron Warriors and your Immortals. You also have the Hexmark Destroyer. He looks like he'd be pretty fun to use. Your Canoptic Reanimator, Lynchguard Deathmarks. I'd like to see these guys used in conjunction with some of the destroyers. I think a close combat Necron army would really be fun to use. As well, you have the new flayed ones, as well as the Cryptothralls that I was mentioning earlier that you would use with Imhotep, that you would use with Illuminor. Earlier I was joking about hoping that they would make new flayed one models. Those are in fact the new plastic flayed one models, and they look incredibly good too. Oh, Scorpek Destroyers. See? Close combat, pretty destroyers that will kill anything that they pretty much come close to. And then there's the Plasmacyte that goes with them. Again, the Triarch Stalker. Your CTAN Shards. This guy, he is a pretty boss. He's an enslaved star god. He's gonna mess some stuff up, and I kind of can't wait to see what he does on the tabletop. As well, you have your regular Transcendent CTAN, your Canoptic Spiders, and your new Scarab Swarms. So these guys definitely have changed a little bit. Ophidian Destroyers. These guys look pretty fun too. I think these guys would go well with flayed ones as well. Your Canoptic Wraiths, your Praetorians, your Tomb Blades, Annihilation Barge, Doomsday Arc. Again, the Locust Destroyers and the new Locust Heavy Destroyer. Maybe Super Heavy Destroyer, I don't know. I'm joking. It's the Heavy Destroyer. Your Canoptic Doomstalker, he's new. He's basically a big gun and a walking thing. Ghost Arc, Doom Scythe, Night Scythe, your Flyers, your Obelisk, your Tesseract Vault, and your Monolith, which features the new Monolith model, not the old one. Then we come to the Silent King. It's an entire page, everybody. Just look at that. What other unit in this game has an entire page devoted to it? I don't think I can go through all of them, but I'm going to go through one or two things. So Pharaoh of the Stars. So everything in the abilities section, for the most part, affects Necron core units or Triarch Praetorians. The majority of them do anyways. So for example, Pharaoh of the Stars, while a friendly unit core or Triarch Praetorian unit is within 6 inches of Caesaric, each time a ranged attack is made by the model in that unit, you can re-roll the hit roll, which, is very cool. He's got a lot of different weapons that he can use. Also, as well, you have the 2 Triarchal Menhirs with him as well. So, the Silent King rides to war abroad his dais of dominion, flanked by the Pharaons of his Triarch, and orbited by the crackling Nicolith Mithrils. He unleashes godlike powers of annihilation upon his dismayed foes, even as his absolute authority radiates out to empower the Necron legions and drive them into inevitable victory. Yup. He be a good model. So moving on from the Silent King, we have the Convergence of Dominion. Yeah, I kind of said that I'd skim over this a little earlier, but on second sight, it's actually a Necron fortification, which they didn't have before. So this is actually relatively new. It's got some nice little abilities that will help you out in battle. So moving on from that, we have the weapon profiles. There are a few changes here. I welcome you guys to take a look at this and read through it and make sure that you are using the most current rules instead of the older ones. And then we are on to, the melee weapons. Then we're on to points values. Definitely a lot of changes here. I mean, the entire points value system in 9th edition is a big difference from 8th edition. So yeah, you definitely need to read through this and make sure that you're very current on your points. And then we have the glossary. For anybody who does not know what a glossary is, this is the definitions that you need to know. So that, everyone, is what's a brief look at what's in this new codex. Some huge changes to the Necron army and how they play out on the tabletop. I definitely took a long look at the lore because of the Silent King and his return, and I wanted to see what they changed. As well, I really can't wait to see what they can do in the new Crusade model of tabletop game. Because there's a lot to add to their army while you march through a campaign. Me personally, I'm not too keen on the competitive play, but it does have its merit here as well. Even if you're not a Necron player, I would suggest going out and getting a copy of this book, because it's definitely a good read. If you don't know a whole lot about the Necron lore, or if you don't know how they work on the tabletop, it would be a good sneak peek into how your opponent's going to play in the future. Thanks for watching, guys.
Sponsored by...
Oh, what's this? It's an excerpt in this book. It says, if you like this video, don't hesitate to like, share, and subscribe. Getting my old man on. Oh God, I threw my back out.